Now, if you're not as lucky as I am in this case, at this point here, if you try to run your application, let's go ahead and try. We would hope that everything would work, but apparently it does not work. And it says here that it couldn't merge the manifest file with the application app component factory and so forth. So translating what's happening here is that we have some dependencies that are not merging together. If we go back to look at our Gradle, right, we're getting into debugging and making sure our application works here. So let's go to our module app here. You notice here we have the app compact support version 28. Depending when you're watching this video, this could be a higher level, okay? So at this point here, this is only if you are having this issue, assuming that you went through the whole process of creating the user interface, just like I did, okay? But you notice also here, because of things that we've been using, we have this design 28 and we have the constraint and all this stuff. So nowadays, so what's happening now is that some of these implementations, some of these dependencies are contradicting each other. Okay, now we could go ahead and change some of the values here and try and figure out if it works. But the best way for this to work, at least for the few times that I've tried in the online help that I got, yes, I do get online help too when things don't work. In the forums I went to, they say that the best way to solve this problem is by migrating this entire project to what they call Androidx. So Androidx is another implementation of the support library dependency that you can see here. So let's go ahead and show you, if you're having this problem, how to solve this. So what do? You go to the top where it says refactor. Okay, make sure you're in this project and go to the bottom here which says migrate to Androidx. Now this is a big deal because you're telling the entire project, Android Studio, to migrate all of the library's dependencies to Androidx. In fact, if you click here, it's going to go and say, hey, wait a minute, are you sure you want to do this? It even goes up and backs up this current project here, just in case you decide that, nope, I don't want Androidx, I want to go back to how things were before. Okay, it may be the case. So I'm going to go through this process here. It's really easy. I'm going to go ahead and say, yes, migrate. Of course, we're going to go ahead and save the copy of this current one, just in case things don't go right. Okay, we'll take a few seconds here, scanning all the files, and look at that. It looks like it found a few imports. I'm going to go ahead and say, do refactor. It's refactoring everything. All right. Takes a few seconds. Very good. And you can see here, everything has changed at this point. All right, so I'm going to leave it as it is right now, and let's see if this is going to help. But before we go that way, let's go make sure everything is good. Notice now we can see our cycle view showing there, which we weren't able to see before. In fact, if we go to text, you can see now it says Androidx recycle view widget. Okay, because now it's using the Androidx dependency. All right, let's hope this works. Let's run this. If it doesn't, we'll have to go back to our previous one and figure something out. It's rebuilding everything. All right, looks like it's installing. And we have an issue. What is this problem? The next thing we need to check here to hopefully fix our problem. Let's go to our SDK manager. So click here. And we want to make sure that the Android Pie, so 9.0, which is 28 API level, okay, that's where Androidx is actually available. We want to make sure that this is actually ticked. And then once that is ticked, I'm going to go ahead and say OK. Now, when we run this, notice we're going to have another issue here. Logcat, and we have another problem. If you go to the top here, and we got our fatal exception. Looks like it couldn't inflate our widget bottom sheet behavior. So sheet behavior, where do we add sheet behavior? Well, it should be in the bottom sheet. So let's click in there. Well, here we are. It's saying here, because we migrated everything to Androidx, now we are supporting, at this point here, when you say layout behavior, we're going through and getting the Android support design, which is not what we have at this point here. Because if you remember, Let's get rid of all of this. If we go back to our app here, notice we've migrated everything to Androidx. Okay, so we don't have the, even for our compact now, it's all clear. It's just Androidx compact, and we have those numbers there. Okay, so at this point here, when we come down here and say we want the behavior to be Android support, it's just going to go ahead and say, well, I don't know where to get that because I have no connection to that anymore. So this is a good place for us to look at how to solve problems like this. Obviously, this is just something that happened and we need to figure out how to find the solution. Now, this is the part that every developer dreads, which is how do we find solutions? Because these things happen all the time. Unfortunately, I'm not always going to be available right away for you to ask questions and so forth. And even so, sometimes I may not know the answer as well. I have to do the due diligence to actually look for answers online. It is also important to always remember this logcat or the run and the errors that we get, they tell us a lot of things. So whenever in doubt, you can copy the whole line here and paste on Google, right, on your search bar, and say plus Android and then hit enter. What happens is you will start getting links of other people who have also had these issues. For instance, I know we're talking about BottomSheet behavior. So this is the keyword, and Androidx, because that's what we migrated to, that's another keyword. So if I go to, let's open a browser here. If I just say, for instance, something Androidx plus BottomSheet, like this, maybe BottomSheet behavior like that, click, and voila. Because I put those two keywords, I still have here, let me make this a little bigger. We can see here it says there is the first hit. If you click it here, it's going to tell you that somebody had the same problem. It says I was using the BottomSheet behavior with original support library. You can read through, and this is the dependency that he had added. And look at that. It says an answer, and there's 75 people, I should say, who have up this answer, which means this is actually working. And it's really beautiful the way this answer is. It says here, it turns out that the refactor tool in Android Studio for refactor migrate to Androidx didn't correctly migrate the XML for the BottomSheet behavior. So the old support looks like this. This is exactly what we've been using. The new location now is different. It goes through com.google, Android material, BottomSheet, bottom behavior such. So now you know the answer, because the answer should be this one here. So I'm going to copy this line of code there, because that is what we need. And if we go back to our Android Studio, close these down, let's go to our BottomSheet where we're actually using it. There we go. We were using the old one. So I'm going to get rid of all of that and paste in the new one. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and save this and run. Let's see what's going to happen. If all goes well, we should have good results. And just like that, it's not crashing anymore. Right? There we go. It can come down. It goes all the way down. This hideable, I'm just say false. Save this, and I think that was the original. Okay. Very good. So we can't go all the way down. And just like that, we're able to solve our problem. So these things happen. We just have to know how to find those answers and get ourselves on the right track. But also, if you're still having issues after adding the new namespace for our BottomSheet there, behavior, if you open up our Gradle properties, as you can see here, so you just go down here and you find Gradle properties, make sure that you have these two clauses there. So this is enable Gratifier to true and use Androidx to true. It should all happen automatically, but if there isn't, but if you don't see it and you're still having this error, that's probably because of this. So make sure you add these two at the top here. Remember, it has to be inside of Gradle.properties, put there at the top, and then sync, and it should be good. All right, that's another note. All right, very good. So now that we know everything is working perfectly, at least so far, we are ready to rock and roll. So we're ready to start putting together the code. Now for our code here, I'm going to simplify our life a little bit, and I'm going to create. So what I'm going to do actually, I'm going to add another item inside of our layout here, which is going to be the row essentially. Let me go back down here. Once we're here and we have our recycle view here, we're going to add the rows, right? Which will allow us to add text and so forth about the predictions and all that. So I'm going to put that down. Very good. So to do that, I'm going to create another layout here. So new layout resource. I'm going to call this item_face detection, like that. Linear layout is great. We're going to make this horizontal linear layout, and for width it's going to be match, and height is going to be wrap content, right? And I'm going to go ahead and create two text views. The first text view, I'm going to make the width about 64 dp. So I'm going to specify things here, and the height is going to be wrap content as such. And I'm going to give an ID, of course. I'm going to call this item_face detection text view 1. Okay. And I'm going to make the text alignment to be text end, like that. So it's going to be the same thing. I'm going to create two of them. Copy this. So this again is what we're going to be inflating in our recycle view. This is going to be number 2. And instead of text end, I'm going to add a margin end of about 16 dp. Margin start of also about 16 dp as such. Let's see a little preview here. Right, you can't see anything. So it's going to be 1 and 2. All right, there we go. Very good. Once we have that, let's get rid of this. We don't need to see that for a while. I'm going to get rid of all of these guys. All right, so next I'm going to go ahead and create a module class here, which we're going to be using to populate those two text views. All right, so let's go to our activity, close our activity there. New Java class, call this face detection model. Simple class, and it will have private int ID and private string text, like that. I'm going to create constructor for both of those, and let's also create getters and setters. There we go. That's it. We're going to use that in a bit. So in the next video, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create our recycle view adapter, because we need that recycle view, as you know, should know by now, to inflate our item face detection, which will then later be added to our recycle view here, which we will have populating all the text about all the faces and probabilities of whether they're smiling, whether the eyes are open or closed, and so forth. Okay, so we're just getting the user interface done, and then we're gonna go hit the code where we're gonna start getting the images and start doing all those predictions. All right, making good progress here. I'll see you in the next video.